You are welcome here, just the way you are. No more hiding tears, no more covering scars. You are welcome, holy welcome. You are welcome here, just the way you want to be. Bring your deepest hopes and all your wildest dreams. You are welcome, holy welcome, holy welcome. You are welcome here, just the way you are. No more hiding tears, no more covering scars. You are welcome, holy welcome. There's something in the air, the dream of life in love, with minds that rest in prayer, sparking joy we're in awe. No matter where your path has been or time will somehow flies, like souls will come home again, true friendship ever thrives. Is this where the magic happens? Can you feel the hearts revealed right now in you and me? The secret is wherever we are. There's something in a smile that can turn a day around. Moments so worthwhile when we find common ground. No matter what the day might bring, right here we can align, knowing that we will be seen as perfect, whole, divine. 'Cause this is where the magic happens. Let's feel all the hearts, from close to me and me to you. The secret is wherever we are. So
Good morning. Welcome to St. George Center for Spiritual Living. Today is the 2nd of July, and boy, is it July. It's supposed to be 107 degrees today, so we're glad you're joining us, hopefully somewhere cool. So we are an open, loving, and inclusive community that supports thinking creatively and living a deeply spiritual life. Today's service team, I'll be hosting today. My name is Gwen Hadley. I'm part of the Core Council. We have Marina Anderson behind the scenes, pushing the buttons, making everything flow beautifully. Shay Barlow, our artist in-house, is going to provide our music for us. Our invocation is from our own practitioner, Anita Sheff. Reading today, thank you, Brianna, for stepping up and volunteering to do our reading. And of course, our senior minister, Reverend Joe Kovach. So we got a good team for you today. So good morning, Shay.
Good morning, Gwen. We sure do. Excited to be here. We're going to go ahead and just get into that heart space, right, this morning. And I'm going to invite you to listen to these lyrics as I go through it one time. And then Anita's going to join, and she's going to offer an invocation. And then we will sing it together. And Marina will put the lyrics on screen when we come back. This is Love Being Known by a New Thought artist, Haber Darling. Holy, I awaken forevermore. Love be known. Holy, I awaken forevermore. Love be known. All is right. All is well within my soul. Peace be my offering forevermore. Love be known. Peace be my offering forevermore. Love be known. All is right. All is well within my soul.
So I invite you in this moment to just take a breath with me and feel yourself drop into that place where peace is known in your soul. And let my words be spoken for each one today. For I know that there is only one mind, one presence, one power, one infinite source of everything that has ever existed. And so I am one with it. And I am one with every other creation. And that includes every person who hears my voice. And so today, as we come together in this celebratory service, at the time when our nation is celebrating the anniversary of its independence, I come here with the thought of freedom on my mind. Freedom to choose. And I'm so grateful that each one has chosen to be here today to participate in this service, whether it's being part of the team that's putting the service together or simply participating with your presence and your thoughts. And I know that we could be anywhere else this day, and we have chosen to come together to hear the inspiration and the wisdom that Reverend Joe brings to us in his talk. And so I am grateful for all that transpires today. I'm grateful for the freedom to notice circumstances and to speak truth to those circumstances. And so I give thanks for the beauty of this day and all that it contains, knowing that all is well. I release my word, and so it is.
And so it is. Holy, I awaken forevermore. Love be known. Holy, I awaken forevermore. Love be known. All is right. All is well within my soul. Peace be my offering forevermore. Love be known. Peace be my offering forevermore. Love be known. All is right. All is well within my soul. All is right. All is well. All is right. All is well within my soul. Now it's my pleasure to welcome Brianna Baker to do our sacred reading today. Morning, Brianna.
Good morning, Shay. Thank you. Beautiful song.
Thanks.
Good morning. Our global monthly theme is speaking truth to circumstances. And as I was thinking about my reading, what came to me was Byron Katie's book called Loving What Is. If you don't know about this book, she does what's called the work. That's what she calls it, where she has you inquire about your thoughts. She has you ask 4 questions. Is it true? Can I absolutely know it's true? What happens or who am I when I think this thought? And who would I be without this thought? So an example would be, it shouldn't be raining. Is it true? Well, no, because it is raining. Who am I when I think this thought? Well, I'm upset because I'm arguing with reality. So this is the passage I chose from her book. I'll pull it up. And she talks about truth and loving what is. Okay. What I love about the work is that it allows you to go inside and find your own happiness, to experience what already exists within you, unchanging, immovable, ever present, ever waiting. No teacher is necessary. You are the teacher you've been waiting for. You are the one who can end your own suffering. The only time we suffer is when we believe a thought that argues with what is. When the mind is perfectly clear, what is what we want. If you want reality to be different than it is, you might as well try to teach a cat to bark. You can try, and in the end, the cat will look up at you and say, meow. Wanting reality to be different than it is hopeless. You can spend the rest of your life trying to teach a cat to bark. And yet, if you pay attention, you'll notice that you think thoughts like this dozens of times a day. People should be kinder. Children should be well behaved. My neighbors should take better care of their lawn. The line at the grocery store should move faster. My husband or wife should agree with me. These thoughts are ways of wanting reality to be different than it is. If you think that this sounds depressing, you're right. All the stress we feel is caused by arguing with what is. People new to the work often say to me, but it would be disempowering to stop my argument with reality. If I simply accept reality, I'll become passive. I may even lose the desire to act. I answer them with a question. Can you really know that's true? Which is more empowering? I wish I hadn't lost my job, or I lost my job. What can I do now? The work reveals that what you think shouldn't have happened should have happened. It happened because it did, and no thinking in the world can change it. This doesn't mean you condone it or approve of it. It just means that you see things without resistance and without the confusion of your inner struggle. I am a lover of what is, not because I'm a spiritual person, but because it hurts when I argue with reality. We can know that reality is good just as it is, because when we argue with it, we experience tension and frustration. We don't feel natural or balanced. When we stop opposing reality, action becomes simple, fluid, kind, and fearless. Loving what is loving what's true. Accepting reality as it is. Speaking truth to what is happening without fighting reality. Inquiring about your thoughts, using the work, frees you and opens you up to even more truth. So it is.
So it is. What a great example. Thanks, Brianna.
Thank you.
So as Brianna mentioned, this month is a new month, the month of July. And on our walk through Living Out Loud this year, July, we are looking at speaking truth to circumstance. Today's focus is Monsters, Inc., those monsters that we create and expand on, sort of like Brianna was alluding to. Ernest Holmes sort of commented on why those can be so powerful by this piece of advice that he wrote about. He said, use your will in making decisions and your feeling and imagination in bringing power to them. Remember that when imagination and will are in conflict, imagination invariably wins. This is because emotion strikes deeper in the wellspring of being than does the intellect. So that's why those pretend things that we imagine can get so powerful. And Reverend Dr. Michelle Madrano wrote in this month's Science of Mind magazine, she said, discerning the spiritual truth about a condition or circumstance is one of the greatest skills we can learn. To make this leap and reap the benefits, we must escape our attachment to our conditions and embrace greater spiritual awareness. So it's not just what we're seeing, right? And one of the ways that I do my work, like Brianna was saying in that great reading, was when we go into meditation, when we listen to that still small voice, right? It gives us the spiritual perspective, and it gives us clarity in any circumstance. This is the whisper of the word. The times are surely changing. Oh, one more. We're going to redo that in a different key. Let's do it again. The times are surely changing. The days are rearranging. I feel the unfamiliar moving in. I could be so uncertain, trying to see behind the curtain, but there's nothing there for proving or to win. And so I go inside and let my mind be quiet. I take the time that I put off for tonight so that it can be heard, the whisper of the word.
Spirit's there everywhere. And when I choose to know, I find it. The news sends out its warning, and the world responds in mourning. How to hold it all without being consumed. Dear ones near and far seem farther, and fear wants us not to bother. But love will always find a way to bloom. And so I go inside. I let my mind be quiet. I take the time that I put off for tonight so that it can be heard. The whisper of the word. Spirit's there everywhere. Yes, I will go inside and let my mind be quiet. I take the time that I put off for tonight. Spirit's there everywhere. And when I choose to know, I find it. Okay, Gwen, back to you.
Beautiful song. Shay, beautiful, beautiful. And Byron Katie, wow.
Right.
We're hitting the road full speed.
We are.
Thank you. So it's my pleasure now to introduce our senior minister, Reverend Joe Kovach. Reverend, where are you?
There I am.
There you are. Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah, save yourself from that heat today, right?
I know. I'm standing inside.
That's part of self-care, right?
Yeah,
Doing what
exactly
feels
right.
good. So thank you for the introduction. And thank you, Brianna, and thank you, Shay. I'm as wowed as hopefully all of you are. It was a perfect reading, perfect setup. And Shay, you just continue to amaze me at that creativity that you just allow through you. It is absolutely beautiful, and it's a perfect testimonial to what we teach and what we call truth. So good morning, one and all. Yes, it is already July. That is amazing. And we're going to shift gears. Last month, we were talking about personalizing the infinite and what that's like. And now is really the next step. Once we kind of get in touch with it, we begin to pay attention to the circumstances. And let's be honest, that's kind of what we want to do is most often change our circumstances or learn to cope depending on where we're at. So happy Sunday to everyone. And it is my pleasure to talk with you today. Welcome one and all, wherever you find yourself. If it's your first time, welcome. If it's your millionth time, welcome. Let's have some fun today. Talking about speaking the truth to circumstance. And, we get caught up in the circumstance. We kind of talked about that a little bit last week. And despite what's going on, and again, I keep going back to the reading today, which was perfect. We have to remind ourselves that which we are looking at is the effect. All right. And I know we hear this all the time, but we're going to start with the basics. It's all God, spirit, the universe. It's all an expression. And despite of what it looks like, it is forever changing, not who and what we are, but the effects, the reality that we choose, and we are at some level choosing this reality. And so we're talking about speaking truth to those circumstances. I believe it was last week that I used the analogy of how do we do that in simplistic form is most of us, before we're aware, it's like watching a movie, right? And the movie's coming through the projector, and instead of trying to change what's coming through at the source, we change it. We try to go up to the screen and change things there. And we know that we're unfruitful. And then we get frustrated, and then we get depressed, and we get angry. And then we kind of end up just repeating the same plan, the same thoughts, and end up with similar results. And that's not what we want to do. We want to move through this. And it does take practice. And, Ernest Holmes, our founder, he used the term practitioner. And a practitioner, and in essence, if you're listening today, we are all practitioners. We are practicing what he called the presence and the law of that which we call spirit or God. And so he says a practitioner does not fight evil. They know there is no evil. Right? So let that sink in. There is no evil. Now our mind's going to say, oh, but I'm looking at these circumstances and those are facts. And well, they are facts in the moment. Okay. There are certain facts that we are saying that are universal. They are and always will be, like the creator was before and will always will be. We are of the creator. We have always been and always will be. This is our truth. This is what we believe. And this is at least as of right now in our state of consciousness, this is truth. Now there's also, let's not get caught up in two different truths for me, because there's truth in a sense of the moment. Brianna in her reading said, I look outside and there's wet stuff coming down. It's raining. That's truth of the moment. But when we talk about spiritual truth, we're talking about, again, the changeless. That which, again, when we were talking about last week about personalizing God, we do this, we can only understand it through our experience. So we're not going to get caught up in fighting what is. When we attempt to fight the outside circumstances, we again give those circumstances our power in mind. So what we know is that which we focus on gets bigger. And so the first quote of the day from Deepak Chopra, he says, most of us have become bundles of conditioned reflexes that are constantly being triggered by people and circumstances into predictable outcomes of behavior. And that may sound really like, harsh. It's reality. I'm a fan of Dr. Joe Dispenza's work. And he not only states it, but he backs it up with pure science. And so this is kind of the work, is changing our habits. We're and most of us are not aware of these conditions and habits that we do automatically. That's what conditioned means, right? It's automatic. And so for people who are awake, we're the ones that practice. We're practitioners of becoming aware of the thoughts that we're thinking through the circumstances that are showing up in front of us. And when we say no to what is, that is the definition of resistance. We talked about this last week, that the source of all is always flowing. And it's like a never-ending, humongous hose, but we, through our minds, have the ability to kink it. Therefore, creating what we feel in life is the belief of separation. We feel like there's no faith. We feel hopeless. We feel disconnected. None of that is true in the sense of spiritual truth, but it may feel true in our immediate reality. Yes, I am depressed. That feels true. And the circumstances show us that. Now, through these next 4 weeks, we're going to learn how to shift in thinking. Now, today's being the first week, it's kind of more of a general introduction. I'm going to try not to get off on a tangent because it's so easy for me to do so, because this is the work, truly. If we say we believe in something, then testimonial comes through literally changing our reality. The first time I even heard anything about this, I was watching PBS special. And it's a long, fun story, but Wayne Dyer was talking and I heard him say that. Hopefully you can read it. It's going backwards. If it does, it says, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. I can't tell if it's going to be mirrored or not. So when we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. So what are we looking at? Are we looking at anything that we're casting out? Meaning if it's all good and it's all God, and God is our good, if we're saying no to it at some level of choice, this is where I'm at, and I don't want this. I want to change my circumstances. That's one thing. If we're saying, oh, this is just horrible, And this is a deep teaching. I know not everyone's going to be able to receive this, but can we see spirit, source, the universe unfolding perfectly in every circumstance? It takes a lot of practice to do that and an open mind. Eric Butterworth, great New Thought author, shares this. He says in Psalm 8, David says that we are crowned with glory and honor and endowed with dominion over all things. David is saying that you are mightier than circumstances. You are not only human, you are human and divine, and the divine in you always transcends the human. You are bigger than your littleness and stronger than your weakness. You have power and dominion over all life's experiences. How? By the attitude with which you deal with it. That is the essence of today's talk. Last week, again, personalizing the infinite. We had to recognize, yes, we are an individual, and yes, we are divine. And we are all of that in here right now. So when we're talking about speaking the truth, some people talk about this idea of, speaking truth and using our power. Sometimes power is a trigger word for many. But in this case, we're talking about commitment and power in the sense of recognizing the power of truth, the changeless truth, and no one is more or less powerful than us. So if we're giving, in a sense, if we see our circumstances more powerful than we are, and how do we know if this is what we're thinking? How are we feeling? Am I feeling disempowered? Am I feeling separated? Am I feeling alone? And not alone in the sense of sometimes I choose to be alone, but alone like, oh, I'm so different and bad in a bad way than everyone else. Have you ever felt that way? I have, and I still go there sometimes. And this is the practice. This is what a practitioner does, is recognizing those things. And it's hard because it can be hard because we can say, but look, and here are the facts. And in a sense, we're not lying, right? It's, I wanted a picnic outside. I didn't buy the tent and it's raining. So yes, my in the facts of looking at it through this mind in this way, my party's ruined. Okay? Now, when we are able to change the way we look at things, okay, we can see there is truly the divine, the good in everything. If I'm open to it and changing my circumstances, I can find that, okay, this is what is now. I'm not resisting. What can happen now? How is it that the divine is going to show up in this circumstances? Because what do I know as truth? And where is my power? My power is in the divine. My power is in divine truth, that there is good of this. And if some way, somehow, it must happen if we align ourselves to that. So the only difference in how it shows up is really our level of awareness and our level of allowing. Because I can say I want something, but I'm still kinking that hose and I'm preventing my good literally from showing up. Take a breath, right? And I get passionate about this because I have used this teaching to change my life in, I will say, miraculous ways. And therefore, I know it's true. I've also watched my friends and members of my communities do the same through the same process. And I love the fact about today's reading when Byron Katie says, you don't need a teacher. Once you are aware that you have all the gifts you need, okay, if a teacher is needed, one will show up. Meaning, if you need a piece of advice, I'm trusting this truth to show up, to change the circumstances. We will be given everything that we need to do that. All right. So Ernest Holmes, our founder, was a big study of Greek and ancient wisdom. And he shares this from Plotinus. He says, I do not argue, I contemplate. And as I contemplate, I let fall the seeds of thought into the mirror of mind, which then becomes the mirror of matter. Okay. So the mirror of mind, what does that mean? That means what I hold, what we hold in our minds is mirrored like a movie back to me. So if what I'm looking at, I'm not liking, the source is from within. Okay. So therefore, life is a reflection of how I am feeling in the moment and who I believe I am. Okay. But then he says, and that's why he says, so it comes in mind and then it shows up in matter. I don't know, again, if you're brand new at this, take it all in, whatever you're able to take in. And even if you're, I've been at this for a while, more than a journeyman, there's always more to take in. So this power that we kind of say, oh, I give away, we can't really give it away. We're just choosing. In fact, it's impossible to give it away, but we're choosing to choose to where we focus that power. What are we paying attention to? Right now, in that, we can feel, by kicking our hose again, we can feel powerless. Okay. So that's the key, is to recognize through our feelings and the circumstances, the material world, our reality, what is showing up. Right. So, there's a phrase, again, speaking truth to our circumstances. That's what we're talking about. And so, yes, we're using power, but it's not a power that we, in a sense, turn on and turn off. What we're really doing is recognizing and saying, I understand this is true in the moment, and through the power that created me, I now choose to change this. Now, it's not going to be instantaneous. We're not there, and I'm going to say yet. I believe someday humanity will be able to. But this hesitation or this delay of what I want showing up is actually a gift in allowing us to make changes before. Because if I go, this is what I want, and then tomorrow something changes, and I go, oh, wait, I really don't want that to show up. This is kind of how I want it to show up. That's great that we have this delay to really fine tune the circumstances, therefore experiences that we want to have. Now, power is not control. That's really the point I want to make with regards to using the word power. We've probably heard the phrase, I believe it's power tends to corrupt and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Kind of confusing, but basically the idea is that it's not the little Reverend Joe that the power I'm talking about. I'm talking about basically little Joe is the conduit to allowing the channel of allowing this power and focusing into my reality, the experiences I want, right? So in a sense, we are divine channels. I believe it was Thomas Troward who said that. I want to say that we are all divine, we are all channels of the divine. So again, think of it like a channel, like a hose, right? We're allowing this through our lives. How much, how little, we choose that. So if we're not experiencing a full, expanded life at all times, no one's doing that to us. Nothing is doing that to us. Okay. It's us. And I say us collectively because there is global consciousness kind of that we're born into. And then we have our individual consciousness. So again, stressing the point, power, we're not talking about control. We're talking about the infinite power of the divine, of the universe, the infinite mind that is intelligent. When we say that, it's not just, oh, it's kind of intelligent. It knows all. Why? Because it is all. So when we encounter people or circumstances, organizations, which seem all powerful, all controlling, okay, they are actually people who have a high need for control. And the need for control comes through fear. Now, fear is part of that global consciousness that I talked about. Okay. On average, a lot of people are living out of fear. What does that mean? Is that we're giving our power to the circumstance. And we're trying to change the circumstance in a sense. I'm going to use a word in a way that doesn't work. I don't want to use the word wrong because we'll all get there. And so if we choose to see something as controlling us in any way, shape, or form, then we feel that. And then when we create from that, we're creating from a place of fear, which is different than creating from a place of love. And Shay's song was perfect. How do we tap into that love? Excuse me. It's already there. We have to choose to open our filters to allow that in. A great way of sharing this, Brian McLaren says, that person that you call your enemy, that person is a part of your family, part of your species, part of your story, part of your kind. So if I say this a lot, and I'm gonna say as often as till we all hear it, anything we damn, in a sense, we put that outside of God. But there's nothing outside of spirit. There's nothing. It's only that. So if we put it outside, we're doing that in place of fear. We're trying to remove something that we cannot remove, and we get caught up in that. That is not how it works. How it works is we tell the reality that we want to experience. Would you like more money? Then we work on seeing more money, allowing more money. And money is really just still a thing. It's a tool. How will that more money make you feel? Oh, but tap into that feeling. Oh, look at that. If you can feel right now as if you won the lottery, then you're tapped into God's abundance, period. Because so often we get caught up in the circumstance having to show up, right, before we feel a certain way. And that just slows the process down. And this is saying anything that we see outside of ourselves and control, well, I can't be happy until the government changes, until my neighbor changes, until the home association changes, until. And we put off our own happiness until our circumstances change, but we're waiting for someone else to change them or for someone else to change. That's not how it works, because none of those things are first cause. They're not causing it. We are allowing cause through our own thinking. And if we want to change our circumstances, we channel that power, that first cause, that spirit, the God within, and it, in a sense, does that, not even in a sense, does the changing. Ours is not to figure out how. We're not at that level of understanding yet, but we know that it works, and it's been proven for a long time. It's the same message that Jesus taught. Now, Ernest Holmes shared that one alone is a great quote. One alone in consciousness with the infinite constitutes a complete majority. Right? What's that saying? We don't need anybody else. We don't need a teacher. We don't need the book. It's right here. What I call me and what I call God or spirit, that's it. That's the majority. When I know it within, and it's not me and it's me as it, there is no separation. It's just how much am I allowing that through my experience. Within the Bible shares a story about the Exodus of the Israelites from Egypt. And in essence, they're settling into what's called the Promised Land. And it's really a story of listening to God in the midst of the cries of despair from people from their challenging circumstances. And this story, like so many other stories, what we call the hero's journey, we talked about that a couple of months ago, but our individual stories of where we go from almost being lost to found, what we would call found, we really find ourselves. But whether it's an individual or a group of people, they choose to turn and listen to that power within. That's what that story was about. And we can use that same story and many thousands, infinite others of changing our lives as well. So I kind of alluded to this before, and I want to make it clear. So I talk about me, and then I talk about spirit or the universe, and it sounds as if it's a duality, but it's not. Again, last week we were talking about personalizing the infinite. It's about recognizing that I am that. Going back to to quote Jesus of Nazareth, who says, right, I and the Father, which is what he called Source, God, are one. we're the same. So what he recognized was the power of God comes through his word. What he says is true. So if it's raining and I don't want it to be raining, okay, I'm not going to say, oh, it's not raining right now in the fact, but within my mind, I hold clear skies. I hold this circumstance is changing. If I'm not even sure what the best way is, I change it for my best and highest good. It's a great way to say things. And so my best and highest good, what does that look like? The incredible author Thomas More, if you've never read Care of the Soul, it's please do so. It's deep. I've read it several times. Great movie, or great book, excuse me. And he says, in spiritual literature, the path to God or to perfectionism is often depicted as an ascent, as in going up. But images of the soul's path are quite different. It may be a labyrinth full of dead ends with a monster at the end, or an odyssey in which the goal is clear, but the way much longer and more twisted than expected. So this idea of learning to, I don't want to use the word control circumstances, but change our circumstances, okay? It's an individual journey, and we have to do that by ourselves, and we'll tap into the journey and recognize that we're the author of the journey. We're the ones dictating how it goes, how as in what's showing up, the experiences. So, when going back to Ernest Holmes' quotes, when he talks about alone in consciousness with the infinite, that simply means that I'm not seeing the circumstances as something else. I'm simply recognizing it as the outpicturing, right? It's the movie on the screen. And in order to change that movie on the screen, I change the film. And the film are the thoughts that we put in front of the light, our source, that go out and show up in reality, become materialized. So we declare what's showing up with our thoughts, with our feelings. And when we'll do this by recognizing who and truly what we are, okay? We are the light, the intelligence, the wisdom of the divine, where our peace, power, beauty, and joy. When we create through that, we experience the lives that we want. And we get to even tweak it even more. And infinite, I love that word because there's no end to the amount of joy, of laughter, of prosperity, of abundance, of healing that we can experience. Okay? It's no longer the one and done and your ship came in and you missed it kind of attitude. You can hold that consciousness, but how does that feel? If I say, oh, so-and-so, oh man, you just missed it. You know what? That was the one and only scholarship you could possibly get. And, now you have to pay full price for it. Right? No, I'm going to go within. I'm going to see myself as abundant and recognize that it's already there. Tap into that. I don't care how it shows up. Right? So we turn within and we say that aloud. What does that mean? Turning within again, recognizing, do what you need to do to tap into that amazing feeling. If it's going for a hike, a bike ride, skiing, reading a book, going to see a funny movie, taking a walk alone, wherever you are. And we say a walk in nature. If you live in New York City, you're not near a park, just take a walk, get out and move and feel, because it's all nature in the sense of it's all divine. Okay. Rumi quote of the week. The inspiration you seek is already within you. Be silent and listen. All right. So I got to watch my time here. I'm looking good. So I want to share a story with you. A while back, a personal story. A while back, I had the absolute, I don't even know what to use the words, honor to work in the Clark County Detention Center. And this was at the very beginning of my journey of opening up to a new understanding, including what we're teaching now. I didn't even know it by name. I didn't know the Centers for Spiritual Living when I started teaching things. And I would share them immediately with my students. I call them students, and these are the people that I work with in jail. And so I was teaching them the idea that if you truly buy into your experience, you can change your reality. Now, people that are in those facilities, are often feeling very, very disempowered, right? They're being controlled by their circumstances that got them there. They're victims. They're being controlled by the institution that keeps them under control, and so on. And so while this is a really freeing philosophy that I teach, and it was the same, even though I didn't know the name, there's a lot of resistance on their end. And I want to share with you about one young man who was 18. And he was in there, and I never asked him why. So all I knew, he was in there for 8 felonies. I don't know what kind. And he said, Joe, if you're telling me that I act and feel as if I'm free, then the universe has to deliver that. And I said, if you truly believe that and practice that, yes, that's what I'm saying. And so I want to say he showed up for a couple more weeks, and then he stopped showing up. So I inquired about him. And then what I heard from his fellow neighbors, I'll call them, was that he basically spends his entire day calling out his name. Now, what I mean by that is when it's time for you to leave jail, they call your name out. So let's say his name was Smith. And so he would, from inside his cell, yell out, Smith, roll it up, grab your stuff, you're gone. And he would just practice this. Now, he finally didn't come back because what I was told was he got released. I knew his court date was coming up. Now, for a while, he was saying, well, but how do I figure this out? I said, yours is not the how. Change the circumstances from within. So he had 7 on the 8 felonies, 7 felonies were dropped, time served on the 8th, and he walked. Amazing. Now, I'm not going to get caught up in what he did, because I truly believe the way this works. He connected with the divine within himself and overcame his circumstances. Now, truth, and I like to tell the full story, he did end up back in jail. It took about 3 months. And I want to share this with you because we had a saying in the jail that's don't go back to the hood. And that's not a knock on anything, but the hood represents, for lingo, there is the area, the circumstances that got you put in here, meaning he gave power back to that which led him to where he was. So he went back to the old way of thinking, and what happened? The circumstances just repeated that. Okay? So when we have these triumphs, these miracles, these healings, okay, remember that we can't really truly forget what got us there in the first place. And when there, meaning what we say, the place that we're trying to get away from, the place that we want to change. And so we practice continually being grateful for the new and then the new. So when our lives change, the healing happens, great. Let's give thanks for that. We're cementing that every day. We're not going back and going, oh, well, I should have never gotten sick, or why did I get sick in the No, don't go back to the hood in that sense. Okay, that's what we're saying. Celebrate what is. All right, Margaret Mead, which is, at least it was a tribute to Margaret Mead, says, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. So again, real quick, I want to share that while I was working in the facilities, there was a lower unit that, which understand when those units, when people are in jail, they're housed, just shoved in there. All races, all creeds, all colors of gangs, etc. And this unit, most of which were my students, chose at night to get together, hold hands, and pray for the betterment of themselves and the jail. You'll never hear that story in the news, but that's a fact. They took it under themselves to change their lives. All right. So I got to make sure the truth that we speak of, when we speak to the current truth, is we come from the power that we are, that you are right here, right now. You are limitless. You are infinite. You are eternal. If you don't like the landscape, change the landscape. How do we do that? We hold it in mind first until it and the feeling becomes so real that it must, by law, show up. So to go back to Ernest Holmes, it says, one alone in consciousness with the infinite constitutes a complete majority. Let's say this in a different way. And what I say is, you are all you need because you are the all. That's it. All right. And I know I'm going to go a little late, but sorry, stay with me. Couple things here. I got to share this story because we talk about Monsters Inc., that monster within. And I literally had a monster within. And this is before I knew, again, where I'm a much lower consciousness. And this monster showed up for me in my dreams. And it showed up in a way. Oh, I got to show the figure. This is kind of what it reminds me of. This is from Stranger Things. And what it showed up for me, though, as this, it was a being like, but I can never really lock eyes on it. And it scared the heck out of me. And the more at the beginning, I would fight against it. And no matter how much I fought against it, I can never it would either match me, and eventually it would overpower me in a very strong way. And I used to wake up and I won't say sweats, but terrorized. And this went on for years. And it wasn't every day, every night, etc. It was just infrequently. And I kept trying more things. Like I would become conscious in my dream and here it is again. And I would cuss at it. And I would try to throw a punch. And in my dreams, I throw a punch and it's like slow. And meanwhile, I'm trying to punch him and he's doing all sorts of things and causing me more fear. Now, that monster within, there's nothing outside of God. And so I took this teaching and I was like, oh, we talked about Abraham last week. I'm resisting what it is. So what happens if I don't? And so I had that dream again. And here it is. And naturally, automatically, right? We talked about these conditions and habits. I started pushing against and I locked hands with it. And it kind of twisted my arms down and was pushing against me even more. Like I was leaning in my dream. And then I remembered. And so I let it go. And what came to me in memories, I stopped resisting and it didn't overpower me anymore. And now while I can't see, meaning the specific details, what I said out loud in my dream was, oh, you are me. And I recognized that I was fighting myself in the dream. It was me. In other words, that was a very transformational time for me because I recognized what? My biggest fear was me, that I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't strong enough, that I wasn't X enough, whatever your X is. And I remember you can't express it, but the love that I felt. And I changed from that moment on to understanding it's me. And so what I know for true is, yes, we all have our monsters, right, within. And in the movie Monsters, Inc., okay, they're seen as monsters and scary. But by the end, right, going back to the idea, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change, the monsters are seen as helpful to society instead of something that should be banned and kicked out. So I have a question for you. We're going to discuss this in the community afterwards. The community meeting is, I don't remember if I have it. No. Yeah, right here. So what is a time or circumstance where you aligned in consciousness with spirit and created a result that seemed impossible or at least improbable? So I want to talk about, we're going to share some times of when you changed your thinking and changed your life for the better. Now, if you see this after we're having this meeting, please email me. I want to hear your stories because those are inspiring and testimonials are very powerful. All right. So let's go into our affirmation for the week. Affirming. We're speaking. What are we doing when we're affirming? We're saying yes to something. We're focusing our divine power. So I'm going to read it one time through. I am not a product of my circumstances. I am a product of my decisions. Right? So let's say this with energy now. Ready? Just take a deep breath. I am not a product of my circumstances. I am a product of my decisions. And that actually comes from Stephen Covey, or Covey, however you say that. All right. So as I close things in prayer, speaking the truth, let us remember that we're celebrating the 4th of July, which is the celebration of independence. And let us recognize that we are each, as we go into prayer, that we are each independent in nature and divine at the same time. We are each a divine channel. And we are here to experience joy and freedom and whatever else we choose as individuals. Because in a sense, there's only one life being lived. And through our own experience, we project thoughts, and Spirit says yes. Yes to a life more abundant. Yes to more money. Yes to more experiences of love showing up. Yes to that perfect mate that you're seeking. Yes to that perfect job that you're seeking. Yes to my perfect job manifesting in and around St. George. Therefore, my perfect house is also waiting for me right now. This is how we create the lives that we want. And because God is unconditional loving, it says yes. And so what I know to be true for each one hearing my voice is we unkink our hoses and we allow the fullness of God's blessings, of God's good to flow through, and show up in our reality. That everything is recognized as the divine in expression, everything. And so there is no circumstances that is more powerful than us ever. We don't talk to our circumstances, our big circumstances, to our small God. We come from a place of a big God and recognizing that circumstances have no true power. They are always changing and changing for our good right here, right now. I bless the Centers for Spiritual Living St. George and know that it is good and that it is also part of the plan that we each consciously hold. Again, small group changing the world. This is what we're doing. We're changing our worlds individually and collectively first. And then we are an example for others who wish to say yes to that. We are conscious of what we say yes to. We are conscious and thankful and appreciative of all that shows up because God's good blessing is in it and here right now. And so it is.
Thank you, Joe. What a good reminder. I need to unkink my hose because it's really kinked up. So
truly, yes.
Beautiful message. Yeah.
Thank you.
And I thank you. We look forward to seeing you on Zoom. So let's start with some announcements. Our community care circle continues. Please let them know if there's anything that they can do to help you. Send you a card, chat, whatever. You can see the number that's up on the screen. Our noon conversation is on Zoom right after this meeting at 12 o'clock. We hope you'll join us. It's always a wonderful continuation of the conversation that has sparked Joe's talk. So please join us if you can. You can see all the information on how to join us on our newsletter and on the website. Abundant prosperity. Join us in the flow. As you give, we give back. It's just a wonderful flow of energy. So there are many ways you can give to help the Center for Spiritual Living St. George. You can give with Zelle, which is a bank-to-bank transfer system. You can give online to PayPal. You can scan our little QR code below or send us a check by mail. We are so happy and grateful for anything that you send and that we receive. So upcoming, next Sunday, in-person gathering. And Joe, his topic got me hypnotized. So please join us. We'll have refreshments. We'll have, it's such a wonderful time to connect in person. So we hope you can join us. If you can't, we'll still be on Zoom. So tune in. The following Sunday, Jafon Seeley will be back. He's one of our favorites, standing on Shiva. So I look forward to that. Now, Marina's going to pop us all back up so that we can speak our closing affirmation. And the gang's all here, I think. So something wonderful is happening through me right now.
It is this thing called life.
Life is in my mind. Life is in my body. Life is in all that I do.
I am it, I embrace it, and I share it.
Just the way that it is,
and just the way that it is becoming.
Thank
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for being here.
Powerhouse service today. Thank you, one and all. And thank you for listening. And please share this with other people. Spread the word.
See you in person next week.
Yes.
See you in 1 minute.
Bye, guys.